Welcome to another episode of I'm Tired of Being Right All the Time. My name is Johnny Wright, and I am president and CEO of the Biosphere. Today I'm right about training unhappy people to be happy. Now, you may look at the surface of that and think, yeah, Johnny, that kind of sounds like a fool's errand. You would be correct in that assumption. It most certainly is. And training an unhappy person to be happy is kind of like training someone who is colorblind about the color purple. It has a predictable outcome. It will fail. And yet we are entrusted as trainers in the biosphere, all of us, to train happy and unhappy people. Every day of every week, we train hundreds of people, all of our clients all over the country. And most of those people we train with are happy, relatively fulfilled, relatively whole. And yet there are some, just like the population, a percentage, who are not. Yet they may come to us with this, right? Happy resumes, happy phone interviews, happy first round interviews, smiling, saying the right things. The first day they're hired, they may say and do all the right things enthusiastically. And yet, over time, with pressure and stress, that facade of happiness will begin to ebb and flow. There will be inconsistencies. And as we train them and share these tools with them, we'll see the failure, or that the person isn't grasping things at the pace at which we think they should based upon our previous experience as trainers. They may fail in terms of tone on the phone, how they engage customers. They may become easily frustrated, or they may lash out even at a customer or a coworker or an owner. That person may be coming to work late, not have good work habits, may leave early, may be sick and out a lot. And so over time, as much as we put into the person, as many resources as we share with them, both the owners and the trainers, it has a predictable outcome. Over time, either the person finds the door themselves or it is found for them. And so they move on, often blaming the workplace and the people in it for their demise, for their leaving, blaming the owner. They move on to the next opportunity and opening, and they apply for it with, again, a smiley resume, happy interviewing, happy first day of work, only again to face the same thing that is them. It's their shadow, the thing you can't get away from. If you are unhappy and unfulfilled, you can't go into a happy workplace and expect to be transformed into what that is. In fact, you'll do the opposite. You'll begin to impact otherwise happy people in a negative way. It will have a drag on everything. I have such empathy for people who are in the workforce, who are not happy, not fulfilled, not whole, and are searching for that externally out in the world. I was that person. I speak from personal experience and with passion to this. In my 20-plus year career as a radio broadcaster, I held 34 jobs. 34 in 20 years. I would come to those positions and apply for them as a happy-go-lucky, smart, charming guy, all of those things, and I would start out that way, and yet over time, I would become the malcontent, the angry guy, the guy who would not carry his weight. I would find the door would be found for me, and I would blame that employer and that owner and those people, and I would move on to the next, and the next, and the next. And that would also be mirrored in my personal relationships, when I would bounce from person to person, writing checks that my heart and my head could not cash, saying I love you over and over and not feeling it, not even understanding it. Why? Because I did not love myself. This vacuous, harmful, destructive existence for so many years, hurting so many. And so 11 years ago, that's how I came to who would eventually be my future wife, Lori. Lori Wright is our VP of Operations in the Biosphere. 11 years ago, we celebrate our 11th anniversary. First date, the end of April. We celebrate our 1-year wedding anniversary at the beginning of March. But I came to her with this shiny resume and happy guy, and she had no sense of what I was inside. I carefully masked that, protected her from it, but really protecting myself, not her. Had I really cared about her, I never would have even put myself into the dating world. What's that great saying? The best date you can ever have is with yourself. Get to know yourself first. Well, I had never taken the time to do that. I come into the relationship broken and lost and empty, and she's also broken. And so two unhappy people trying to make each other happy. How does that work? It does not most of the time. The failure rate is really high. Two things led to our success. Two. The first is luck. I tell my wife this all the time. I said, we were lucky. This should have never worked out, ever. The second feeds the first. The second is hard work. We were relentless. We would argue and yell, and I would walk away, and she would walk away, and I would upset the apple cart because of the frustration I had about my existence in my life, and I was leading this unfulfilled thing, and I wanted to see that personified, and so I would start arguments. I would pick on her. I would do all of these things that I had done for years to find the exit in the relationship I was in previously. And yet, she stuck with it. And we talked. And we argued, and we talked, and we fought, and we talked. And we stuck with it, and we were persistent and obsessive and relentless. And I understood in many ways that this was it. I said to myself, listen, if I can't make this work with the most loving person I'd ever met in my life, then there was nobody on the planet that would ever have me. And so in many ways, I closed the escape hatch and locked it and said, buddy, you're stuck. Figure it out. And so we did. And so we did. And so we continue to do so. Every day, we are both a work in progress and a masterpiece. And at the beginning of our relationship, when I would write, I love you, on our first date when I said, I love you, and I didn't feel it and didn't really mean it and couldn't have meant it because I didn't love myself. Each day after that, every time I wrote, I love you to her, I had a little less doubt, a little less questioning in my heart. And now, today, as I write, I love you to her, every day that I write, I love you to her, I say it with confidence. I say it because I mean it. I say it and write it because it is true. This block I wrote to her a couple years ago. Not only do I love her, but I love myself, and that is the key. Every time I write it, I feel love in that way. I would ask you, before you enter into any relationship, professional, personal, or otherwise, to ask yourself the simple question, do you really love yourself? Do you see the value in you? Because no one else ever will until you see it first. You're worth it. But don't take my word for it.